On this episode of Political Weathervane, September 14th, 2024, this week was the first debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. We had the highlights, the reaction, and the top 25 lies Kamala Harris said during the debate, all on this episode of Political Weathervane.
Trade your freedom for a false sense of right. Together we're stronger, we won't be denied. This is freedom's last stand, let's turn the tide. Let's turn the tide.
All right, this is Political Weathervane. I'm Ben.
And I am Sean.
All right, so we're going to start with, I believe we have Kamala's good moments, her worst moment of the night, Trump's best moment, and Trump's worst moment. That's what we're going to play, kind of a little bit of a summary of the debate, and then we'll kind of discuss it further and kind of go from there. So we're going to play Kamala Harris's best moment of the night.
Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term? They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
All right, so why do you think that's Kamala Harris's best moment of the debate?
Because it will energize. I didn't necessarily agree with what she was saying, but it will energize her base. And for a lot of people, abortion is the number one issue. And she really seemed like she understood, had a lot of passion about that moment.
I feel that she kind of picked the worst case scenarios to bring out and just kind of a little bit of fear mongering when you brought into it. But I think that's
see what I'm saying.
It's scare tactics to me, but I see that it's going to rile up her base, and that's probably.
And Trump has never said that he wanted a nationwide abortion ban. He has said that he wanted every state to decide.
And what's this with Project 2025 that they're going to monitor?
That's something that's been going around, yes. But I have not seen that in Project 2025, and he has denounced it so many times, President Trump.
It's not even factual.
No.
All right, so we're going to move on to now her worst moment.
And this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge.
So why is that Kamala's worst moment in your opinion?
It's her worst moment because she was basically picking at the president, trying to get him mad because he ripped on the. First of all, it was kind of petty, and secondly, she has no idea what she's talking about with the crowd sizes or with the rallies. And also, I picked that because it was a weird thing to say in the debate, like what that completely came out of left field, and also it was. You're saying that he always wanted problems to not be solved. That's crazy because if you watched his first term as president, he solved a lot of problems for our country.
All right, we're moving on to Trump's best moment.
Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person.
All right, so that's not the right clip. Sean said that you can find the right clip. Just give it a second.
For saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't.
All right, so why is that Trump's best moment?
It was because he showed strength to the enemy, the Taliban, and I liked it also because that was one of the sticking points Democrats have been trying to say, is that it was actually Trump's fault that we left Afghanistan the way we did, and that's not the case.
All right, so now we're going to have Trump's worst moment of the night.
So why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the board.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying.
All right, so why was that Trump's worst moment of the night?
It was because he seemed to be going off track and talking about a lot of things at the same time. Plus, I think it would have been better if he would have talked about Colorado and not about Ohio. Because with Ohio, that's not really proven yet. That's happened.
Yeah, would you say that before, if we had the other quote before, that she kind of egged him on a little bit and he kind of fell?
Yeah, he took the bait.
Mm-hmm. And you could see that a number of times throughout the debate, that there was times where he did fall for it, but then there was times where he caught himself.
Uh-huh.
And it seemed like later on he caught himself, but earlier on in the debate he kind of was a little bit off track.
Do you want to go over what we are just thoughts of the debate?
Yeah, we can go over some of the thoughts, but I do want to each let everybody hear their closing statements.
Okay.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And
So what's your reaction to the debate?
Overall, I thought it didn't really change anything. And I don't really think it changed anybody's minds because they really didn't talk about policy much. They just kind of went after each other.
Yeah, I think that it actually, the little bit of undecided voters, I think in certain places, it helps sway them towards Kamala. Like, I think it's going to hurt him in Georgia and in North Carolina in that area. But I don't see it affecting anywhere. I think it actually may have strengthened him in states like Arizona and Nevada for Trump.
What do you think about Pennsylvania? Do you think it moved the needle at all for Trump in Pennsylvania?
It's so tough to say. I don't know, honestly.
Because of the fracking issue.
Yeah, the
I'm
fracking issue is one of the keys there. But I think that it did affect him in Georgia and North Carolina. But we'll see further later on. All right. In a moment, we'll be right back with the top 25 lies that Kamala Harris said during the debate. We are back on Political Weathervane, and we're going through the top 25 lies that Kamala Harris told during the debate against Trump. All right. Gotta find the source of where we got this from. I'm reading this from the Federalist. I think that's where this came from.
I think it is.
Okay, the articles are written by Sean Fleetwood of the Federalist. All right, the number one is the claim that she's a middle-class kid. Harris claimed that she grew up a middle-class kid. This is not true. As previously noted by Megyn Kelly, her father was a professor, and her mother was a biochemist at UC Berkeley.
She mentions that a lot.
Yeah, that she's a middle class. Yeah. Okay. Number two was Trump's tax cuts. She insinuated that the 27 tax cuts approved by Trump disproportionately benefited billionaires and corporations. This is not true. Data from the IRS has shown that, on average, all income brackets benefited substantially from the Republicans' tax reforms that happened in 2017. All right. The number three claim was called the Trump sales tax. Harris claimed that Trump will implement a sales tax, but Trump has not pledged to do such a thing if he's elected president.
She's trying to say that tariffs are a sales tax, but it's not.
No, not at all.
That's what she's claiming. All right, the next one is January 6th. Harris contended that the January 6th, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Contrary to Harris's claim, the January 6th events did not put American self-governance in jeopardy, nor did it expose Americans to risks like they did during World War I, the Japanese attacks on Pearl Harbor, or World War II. The next one is Project 2025. She mentioned that quite a few times in the debate. Harris claimed that Trump will implement Project 2025 if elected. Trump has repeatedly said that he has nothing to do with Project 2025.
All right. Number six is restoring Roe. When asked whether she supports any restrictions on abortion, Harris dodged the question, instead claiming that she absolutely supports reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. Moments before that, however, Harris pledged to sign legislation such as the ill-named Women's Health Care Protection Act, which would codify abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy. In addition to her history of co-sponsoring the original version of that legislation, Harris has also voted against protections for babies who were born alive after botched abortions. All right.
Number 7, pro-life laws criminalize miscarriages and ectopic pregnancies. Harris claimed that several states have Trump abortion bans that make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care, threaten women with prison time, and make no exception, even for rape or incest. The life-saving law is designed to protect thousands of innocent every year from elective abortions. However, they do not criminalize treatment for spontaneous loss or complications. In fact, every single pro-life policy on the books includes exceptions for abortion when it is deemed necessary to save the life of a woman.
All right. Another lie she said was Trump's abortion stance. It says Harris told Americans on Tuesday night we'll sign a national abortion ban and hire a national abortion monitor that will be able to monitor your pregnancies and your miscarriages if he is elected. The Republicans' 2024 abortion platform, however, explicitly states decisions about ending life in womb should be left up to the states and mentions nothing about crowning a national pro-life coordinator. The GOP presidential nominee has also sworn multiple times that he would not sign a federal legislation curbing abortion. Number 9, 9 months abortion does not exist. Harris also used her time on the debate to assert that nowhere in America is a woman carrying an abortion to term and then asking for abortion. She said, quote, "This is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America." But, however, the data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, however, shows that thousands of abortions were performed after 21 weeks of gestation, and the CDC's findings did not include reporting from at least 4 abortion-friendly states, which suggests the number of late-term abortions in the U.S. is likely much higher. Do you know those 4 abortion-friendly states?
Probably New York, California, Illinois.
California, you were right. Maryland, New Hampshire, and New Jersey.
Oh.
Okay. So the border bill. Harris claimed a congressional border bill was proposed earlier this year that would have stemmed illegal immigration and fentanyl at the southern border. That statement is categorically false. The bipartisan measure that would have enshrined existing invasion into federal law. Okay. Number 11.
The Supreme Court immunity ruling. Harris mischaracterized the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity, claiming the decision would mean that Trump would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. The vice president's claim is misleading at best. While a majority of justices determined that a U.S. president possesses absolute immunity for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority, and at least presumptive immunity for official acts, they separately noted that there is no immunity for unofficial acts.
All right. The fracking ban, we've talked about that before. We can skip and we don't have to read about that. Number 13, it says Minnesota rioters bail fund. Harris seemingly denied that she undertook efforts to bail out left-wing rioters in Minnesota after the George Floyd riots, which is definitely not true, that she actually did donate money to a bail fund. And if anybody wants to go on further in that, you can research that. Trump's role in January 6th. She claimed that Trump incited January 6th. But however, this is false. Trump has specifically told protesters to peacefully and patriotically make their voices heard, and even sought to deploy 10,000 National Guard troops to the Capitol ahead of the certification of the 2020 results. And you remember who refused the National Guard help?
Speaker Pelosi.
Yep, that's right.
And Mayor Bowser of D.C.
All right. Also, the January 6th deaths she brought up. She goes, some police officers died as a result of January 6th. They said this is false. Medical examiners determined that Officer Sicknick died of natural causes from the event. I believe, wasn't there one guy that got hit in the head or something? I remember hearing that. And then he died days later. And then they count somebody who committed suicide after it. So there's a number of things. All right. It says the Fine People hoax. Harris repeatedly the debunked lie that Harris praised the white supremacists marching in Charlottesville and saying that there were fine people on both sides. This is false. Trump was referring to both sides of the debate. He was not referring to the white supremacists. All right, the bloodbath hoax. Harris has regurgitated multiple times the false narrative that Trump said there will be a bloodbath if he loses in November. The vice president has taken this out of context so many times. He wasn't referring to violence. He was worried about the economic disaster that awaits the Harris administration. All right, Trump's NATO comments. Harris has distorted the former president's remarks, claiming that he told Russia to do whatever the hell they want. This is not true. Harris said, Trump's remarks came during a South Carolina, which he recounted a story where he was president and he was speaking at a NATO member. He reportedly indicated that he would withhold U.S. support if the member didn't pay its minimum defense. He goes, you didn't pay your delinquent, you're recalled telling an unified NATO member. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay your bills. So he wasn't even referring to Russia. He was referring to somebody in NATO. All right. It says autocrats' preferences for president. So basically saying that Putin really wants Trump to be the winner, and there's no consistency with that. Even the recent articles from last week even said he wanted Kamala Harris to be president. So that's definitely not true. All right, and then it says number 20 is combat zones. Harris claimed that there's not one member of the United States military who's in active duty in a combat zone or any war zone. This is not true, as noted by U.S. Representative Peter Meyer of Michigan. Said troops are currently in Syria, Iraq, and are routinely attacked by Iran-backed militias. We've had 3 soldiers that were killed in Jordan even earlier this year. So Harris making that statement is entirely false. All right, blaming Trump for Afghanistan withdrawal. Harris attempted to pin the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, which got 13 members killed, on Trump. He said Donald Trump negotiated one of the weakest deals that you could ever imagine. This is obviously not true, because it was recently released by the Republicans on the National House Foreign Affairs Committee that the evidence proves that Biden's decision to withdraw all troops was not based on a security situation or the Doha Agreement. The advice came from senior national security advisors or our allies. Rather, it was premised on this long-standing, unyielding opinion that the United States should no longer be in Afghanistan. So this was out the knowledge of our allies. All right, number 22, so we're getting towards the end now, was gun confiscation. She claims that she's never supported mandatory gun confiscation. This is false. He's talking about the forced buyback program, which is gun confiscation, because you can't, if it's by force, you obviously have to do it. So she's like, but that's not gun confiscation. It obviously is. Trump's foreign policy record claims Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. Under Trump's administration, our border was much more secure. America facilitated so many more peace agreements between Israel and other Arab nations. And what we got under Biden and Harris is we got Russia invading Ukraine, Iran backed Hamas, China ramping up its threats towards Taiwan, the Philippines, and Japan, and a lot of uneasiness around the world. All right, number 24, defunding the police. Harris shook her head and claimed it was not true that over the past she supported defunding the police. She said that wasn't true, that she never wanted to defund the police. She said that, okay, quote, Harris previously expressed support for reimagining policing and redirecting resources away from police. So it's not defunding them, we're just simply taking their assets away. So that pretty much is, defunding the police if they don't get what they need. Now the final one is IVF, in vitro fertilization. The Democrats' latest attempt to scare people is to say that Republicans are against in vitro fertilization, which seems like the most far-fetched thing to me I could think of. I think it's pretty dumb.
Trump has even said that he wants the federal government to pay or force insurance companies to pay for IVF. He's not against IVF.
And anyway, it's just another one of the long list of lies that she said. Just one of 25.
There's probably more.
I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there is. But yeah, in a lot of sense, she is lying her way to try to get to the presidency.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you for listening to our show today. Enjoyed doing the show with you, Sean, as always. We'll be back next week with another episode. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
They want to control us, make us comply, but we'll break the chains, we'll defy and fly. Kamala's vision may loom overhead, but in the land of the brave, we won't live in dread. Our spirits unbroken, we'll stand hand in hand. Together we fight, this is freedom's last stand. So raise your voice, let the world hear our fight. Don't trade your freedom for a false sense of right. Together we're